Riverside.
Welcome to Dance Talk with Joanne Carey, where the dance world connects, the conversations inspire, and where we are keeping them real. I'm your host, Joanne Carey, and I'm joined today with Gabriel Chajnik. Did I get that right?
Hello. Hi, Joanne. You got it perfectly.
Excellent. So I'm delighted to have you. Gabriel and I go back a long way. Welcome to Dance Talk, Gabriel.
Thank you for having me. It's so great to see you after all these years. And like we said, the dance world is so small.
It is.
We all connected.
Yeah, we were talking before we got on, and we were catching up. I mean, we were catching up on all these years, and we were both saying how the dance world is a small world, but it's our world. And I want to start with that because Gabriel, I think that's such a profound thing, and that really strikes a chord for me because it is our world, and it's a beautiful world, and I think it's a world that really offers so much to people, so much happiness and joy and healing and goodness, even if the subject matter at times is about sadness or people's troubles or what have you. I think it strikes a chord so deeply that it can bring people out of that and into a really a beautiful healing space. So that's my little thoughts. What are your thoughts on that?
You just expressed it you articulated it very well. We dancers, when you don't know somebody and all of a sudden you're introduced to this person and this person tells you that she or he or them, they're dancers, all of a sudden there is a connection that it's I feel the connection is there with this person. It's inevitable. You have things to talk about. You know somebody that knows somebody, especially in this area, New York, New Jersey, the tri-state area. The dance world is so precious, and it's even more precious after the pandemic because it was very large, then it shrunk.
Yes, it really did.
And
yeah, go ahead, continue.
yeah, and so I myself, I just went through a big loss. I lost my teacher, Mr. Saraspe, about a year ago. It's going to be a year, February 13th, Juilliard faculty for one of the founders of the Juilliard dance department.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and then I saw, the church was packed with people, and all of a sudden seeing all these people that are dancers and artists and directors and choreographers and their dear friends. And it's like as if time didn't, there was no time. We just saw each other yesterday. And that happens with you.
Yeah,
So.
I know. And like I've heard, because we have mutual friends, of course, in the dance world, and I'll hear your name and I've heard what you've been doing, but yet like now I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like I've like you said, that time just shrank and here we are as if it's never been all those years, which is I think that's such a great thing.
Well, you look much better than me. But
oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh my goodness. But like I said earlier, I don't feel that. I feel the years.
Oh, you look energized and wonderful, and all the things you're doing are really terrific. And I always and talking about Maestro, my teacher of many years. He, I trained in Buenos Aires as a ballet dancer, and I met Hector Saraspe when I was 17, and this was 2 months ago, by the way.
Yes.
I met Maestro in Buenos Aires. Maestro will come and do this gigantic seminars. He will bring people from Juilliard to South America to teach classes. Remember that back then there was no Instagram or YouTube, or this is the late 80s, and I met him in 1989, and you can do the math.
Yes.
And I just, I came into this class. My teacher from the theater took us a whole bunch of people there, and there was 200 people in the class. They
Hmm.
have the people that organized this seminar for Maestro and the Juilliard Ensemble uh, rented this basketball courts. He didn't teach the class in a studio. Yeah,
Wow.
and there were 200 people in one
Oh,
ballet class. They put this bars. They made up this bars, and uh, you know, in the middle of the class, Maestro says, "What's your name?" And he
wow.
points towards me, and I'm like, "Oh shoot, what did I do? I didn't turn out enough."
Yeah, yeah.
And and he said at the end of the class, "I would like to see you." And he talked to me, and he said, "I think your future is in New York."
Wow.
And 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 I followed him through Buenos Aires, through Argentina for the next 1.5 years. I saved some money and I followed him and his students around. We went to Central America. I was helping him demonstrate, and I wanted to study with him. That's really what I wanted, and he opened the door to Juilliard because there was no social media. I didn't know exactly what Juilliard was, except for one dance magazine or
Mhm.
some dance magazines that you know, and so when he mentioned Juilliard, I started looking into it, and then that's exactly where I wanted to go. So
Wow. And all these years I never knew that. I love that I get to have these conversations and find these things out about people, and I that's when you talk about that, and here you were in Buenos Aires, and here I am, right? Living, not far from the city. And at a time, I imagine, I don't know a lot of the history of Argentina, but I imagine at a time, a transitional time, if I'm not mistaken, in Argentina,
absolutely, you're right on.
and so, and here you are all these years later, having gone to Juilliard, graduated from Juilliard, and have your career here in the United States. And there you were like plucked out of that basketball court in the middle of Argentina, and you came to America. Like that, those are the stories that need to be told, and that people and aspire to and get inspired by. And I don't know if like I hear that about you, and like you're telling me that, and that's so inspiring and touching because I
Thank
never.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing it. I never knew that detail about you. You were always saying, like Gabriel, yep, Gabriel, yeah, we love Gabriel. Like that's how it's always. That's how it always.
I'm very. I mean, thank you for acknowledging that. I'm very private when it comes to this kind of stories, and I don't. And for me, I always keep myself a lot in the present moment, and and I
Oh,
like to when I sit down with somebody like you because you are very special, and although you haven't seen people in a few years, and it's almost like if time hasn't passed, and it's important because what the work that you're doing, it's really a legacy. It's really what is going to inspire maybe younger dancers to continue. Our art form, dance, is the most difficult, and we are faced with ourselves every day. We are working on our bodies all the time, many hours a day, and then our emotional body sometimes gets a little bit neglected because we're working so much on our physical body, so our emotional body gets a little bit depleted, and that's why a dancer is something so precious, and you understand that because you have worked and trained dancers. You work with dancers all the time. You work with young dancers all the time. That a dancer is something that it has to be taken care of. It has to be something that it's you know teaching dance it's a career on its own. And that's what I think it thank you for giving me the outlet to really express this to anybody that's listening. And being a teacher is something that is a lot of responsibility. And you and I have talked many times about this, I remember. And I've seen you teach. You're an amazing teacher. So making dancers, teaching dance, Maestro Saraspe, I quote him all the time because he made thousands of dancers. He was the private coach of Rudolf Nureyev and Margot Fontaine, traveling 10 years with them. He, was one of the founders of the Juilliard School Dance Department. I can say that very freely because he worked with Martha Hill very, very closely, Mr. Joffrey. He will say, the book doesn't dance. So you can go to the book, you can go to the Vaganova curriculum or the RAD or any of these curriculums and get the book, but the book doesn't dance. You need the teacher to transmit it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for saying that, and thank you for saying that about me, Gabriel. I think that means a lot because I don't hear it that often. Because for those listening, I've said it before on different podcasts, but I had a dance studio for 23 years, and Gabriel was a teacher with me for a little while, and I know him from another.
I was very lucky, very fortunate to land in your studio. I was still a dancer.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I was a young dancer, and I landed in your studio. Thank goodness. And we dancers, we dance in a company, and we always looking for work. That's the nature of things. And sometimes you work for a studio again, Maestro will say this: the bakery is very nice, the building is beautiful, but the bread stinks. So so it's a beautiful studio, but what's in it is not good. But your studio, very, very special, and I've seen you teach. When I saw you teach, and I was like, yes, sure.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot, Gabriel. Thank you.
For sure.
Let's talk about you some more.
Okie dokie.
Yeah. So
sure.
Let's talk about a little bit more about your career. And so you graduated from Juilliard.
I graduated from Juilliard in 1998, and then there were always directors that will come to Juilliard. They still do in the senior year, and they watch classes, and they're looking for dancers. And I was very lucky to really, be at Juilliard. I had the best time. I had the best teachers. I just, looking back at those times were I'm going to say the best time in my life. I mean, I had a great time dancing professionally, but being at Juilliard was the transformative, the turning point.
Yeah.
that was the turning point. That's when I not only was introduced to all the modern techniques, the modern techniques that are the modern techniques, right? Yeah. Graham, Limon, Taylor, and Cunningham, those four. So I was introduced to those in depth, and I had as a teacher, Miss Christine Dakin amongst other teachers, but Miss Christine Dakin is one of my mentors. I'm still in her arms pretty much. Miss Dakin is just not only an incredible mentor, but a dear friend and the most fabulous dancer. When she will come and teach, she will teach Graham, and she will come and start demonstrating. We couldn't remember one combination because we were just lost watching her. Of course, Kasiko Hirabayashi and many Graham divas, Therese Capuccilli and Jackie Puglisi, and we were served with the best, the best of the best. For Taylor, we had Miss Carolyn Adams, of course, and Linda Kent, who's also one of mine, my dear mentors and friends. Doing that and dancing that repertory for me was just something that was phenomenal. Limon was very much in depth with Laura Glenn, ballet with the best. And then what really was a really turning point for me, because I was always interested in choreography. I actually choreographed my own solo for Juilliard, and I was always wanting to choreograph, and I had the privilege to be accepted into Bessie Schomburg's class.
Wow.
So I was in her class for the last 2 years when I was a junior and a senior, and she passed. And I would walk her to her car because she would live in Connecticut. She was 93. Whenever she will come, and I have the fondest memories. And if anybody's listening that was in Bessie's class, probably agrees with me that she spoke with a German accent. She was speaking English with a German accent, and she was just the most incredible composition teacher. And what really changed my view about the art of choreography, because as teaching is a career on its own, being a choreographer is another one. It's a separate one.
Yeah.
And then being a director is another one. So the choreography part was all on Basie. I mean, I remember in class, I tend to create a lot of studies with props, and she would say, just Gabriel, just strip everything. Just don't use any props whatsoever. The musicality, she will introduce us to the big components of music and rhythm, in composing dance, the best. And so when she passed was a big loss, but again, she left her legacy.
The legacy.
And so
oh no, and she was teaching you when she was 93?
90, I think she passed in 93, so she must have been 91 when we had her.
Wow.
Yeah.
I say that because my mom is 93.
Yeah. She will come she will have a cane. She will come with her driver, and she will go up and teach, and then I will walk her sometimes we will take turns to walk her back to her car. And the driver will take her back to Connecticut or somewhere. She lived in Westchester or Connecticut or somewhere like that.
And
amazing.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. She was the one she was one of the pillars of dance here in America,
And that's amazing. Like, it shows, I think, having somebody who's 91 who gets driven to New York City from Connecticut to teach class, I think that just shows you, first of all, the dedication, obviously, the longevity, but just how far-reaching and how it just feeds the soul. I think dance just feeds the soul. And I think when you live in this world and you teach, and you're a teacher like she is, I think you live for that every day. If you're not passing on the art every day to someone, whether it's speaking like this, teaching in the classroom, whatever you're doing, if you're not passing it on, it's like a little death, because you want the art form to survive, right? And to thrive, not just survive, but to thrive. It can tell I'm a little passionate, everybody, about that.
Oh, well, yeah, you just, I mean, you articulate things beautifully. It's like a little death. It's a tiny little death. And that's why this career is so difficult, because so many, many, many times you think, how long can I do this? I mean, you can hear this many, many times from many dancers. Dance doesn't make me happy anymore. But if you're a dancer, it's inevitable. You can't just stop.
Yeah, you can't.
So,
yeah.
And there could be situations in life that can make you stop physically.
Yep. Physically,
but when we speak about art, because dance is an art form, it's inherited to the human nature. It's in us.
Yeah.
So, that's why when I see a dancer in pain and maybe with an injury, or maybe somebody that hasn't danced in a while, I always say, dance,
Yeah.
direct to her in feminine. Maybe I should say them now, but um, for me, dance has a lot of the feminine aspect of energies.
Mhm.
Dance is always with you. She's always with you,
Yeah.
no matter what. If you love her,
I like that
she'll
image.
always with.
Yeah. That's a really beautiful image. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you hold her hand, she'll hold yours, because that's my experience that I
Mhm.
had. My experience is that what you just said, dance is fulfilling. It's my vehicle. It's the vehicle that I use, not use, but it's the vehicle that I am in to be able to travel the roads of this life that has a lot of roads that are very, wavy, and maybe some deep, down hills. And but what really, in the moments of in my darkest places, because we all have them,
Yeah.
dance was the one thing that always pulled me up.
Yes, it really. I agree with you wholeheartedly with all of that, all of it. And I know, like, even you go into a dance studio, and I'm always like, no matter what kind of day, morning it starts out as, and you get there, and I always feel like I would walk in, and I'd be like, ah, everything, you know, and it doesn't. I could go take class. And it's the same thing there. When I walked into my own studio, even if I had like a load of work to do, a ton of work to do that I wasn't looking forward to doing, I'm talking the admin part, and I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, I
Oh,
got to get all that done, right? But yet I would open that door, and then everything would just melt off, And I think, I know for myself, dance, it really taps into my ability to work really hard. And it doesn't, even though I know it's hard work, and as I get older, and you talk about the physicality
hmm.
now is a lot
Yeah.
more hard work.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't, when I'm doing it, it just transcends your traditional workspace, that it doesn't feel like work, if that makes. And I guess that's what art is, right? I guess that's what art does.
Well, for an artist like you, but many people cannot understand um how art translates, right? So many people think that just inspiration comes um in 1 second. Okay, so I'm gonna do this in the studio. I'm gonna put this sequences, and I'm gonna choreograph this. And just people that don't know the process, or they don't understand, they think that is everything. But inspiration, you have to work really hard.
Yeah, yeah,
Inspiration is something that you have to work at, and that
yeah,
was the things that Basie used to say. So to get inspired, yes, your surroundings. We artists are looking, talking, you're talking. I'm connecting it to the studio. When you come into the studio, it's because your surroundings, the energies that are around you, the people that are around you, really inspire.
yeah, yeah,
So coming into the studio, that's what really opens the channel. It's
yeah,
almost as if you're plugging, your laptop is about to, the battery is about to run down, and you plug it in, and then the little light up. That's what it is. And so also, being in a beautiful studio, it makes a big difference for me. Sometimes people say, Gabriel, you're so particular. I Yes, I'm very particular. For me, when I'm in the studio, I want to make sure that it has light, and it
yeah,
has good ventilation, and it has a good floor, and dancers are, you know, that is a fashion show and rehearsal, that the leotards are beautiful, and then everybody feels beautiful. And
yes, yeah. I agree with all. Yes, I would always tell the dancers. I'm sorry if I'm cutting you off, but I would
yeah,
always
yeah,
tell kids, like when you're training kids and children, to they're learning what the art is, and they're learning how to be a dancer, right? Because they're learning that process. I would always say, please don't fight with me on this dress code. It's there for a reason. You show up as a dancer. That's half the battle. Show up as a dancer? You wouldn't go out.
A lot of dancers, I'm sure I'm gonna listen to this. They listen to your podcast, and I started listening to your podcast a couple of months. I think it was a month and a half ago, and they're phenomenal. And I'm gonna say this: if you dancers are out there listening right now,
Yeah.
feel that you are, when you go to a rehearsal or to a class, you dress up to see somebody that you really love. You know, when I go out with my husband, and we've been together for 14 years, married for 14 and together for 27.
Wow.
So when I go out with my husband, I dress up
Yeah. Yeah.
because I love him,
Yeah.
and I want to look good for him,
Yeah.
you know? So why wouldn't you, if you love dance so much, why wouldn't you dress up for her?
I like that. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. I just a little side note about that too. And for the dancers listening, and look, we understand. You don't have to have a different outfit every class, right? You don't have to have a different,
Right.
but
No, no.
just show up like you care. Like you care and that it matters. When I stop the studio, and then because I've always taken class. That's the one thing, I still take class. I feel like I can't breathe without taking class.
Right. Right.
And I wish I could take it more. But I got rid of all my old dance stuff. I said I didn't want the old to come with, like, a couple things I kept, obviously, that are too
Yeah.
sentimental. Because it was like a fresh start. I wanted to have a fresh start in how I presented myself,
That's wonderful.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I did it piecemeal, because, but then it made such a difference for me, because I wanted to be new, I wanted to have a fresh start. So for me, at this point in my career, I'm saying that for dancers who are starting this career, or who are in this career and who are going to those classes and auditioning, you just don't know who's in that class with you as well. And so I think you want to present your best self at all times.
Yeah, I mean, the company, the Axelrod Contemporary Ballet that I'm the director, and I'll tell you in a minute how this whole thing started, is that, I tell the dancers all the time, you're in rehearsal. Of course, there are days like today that's like 16 degrees, and everybody wants to be covered, and that's a very valid thing. The very first few minutes of class or rehearsal, but there are warm-up options that can be really suiting and really beautiful. The whole pajama thing, the whole dancing in pajamas, for me, it's wonderful because I dance in pajamas with my dogs when I'm at home. I do. And I love it. I love dancing in pajamas. But I just feel that that's really to be, it has to be the context for it. But but it's so wonderful to be able to talk about it, and then to have a point of view about it too, because this is my point of view, this is my
Yes,
opinion.
and mine as well.
So
Mhm.
everybody, and times go, and we're growing some silver hair, but 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 I'm so excited about the changes and the use of technology,
Yeah.
the use of the silver lining of the pandemic, which to be able to rehearse on Zoom, to be able to have this, what you and I are doing.
Yeah.
um you know Maybe AI will help for some things in the future for dance.
Yeah.
I'm not stuck in the past
Right. Yes.
at all.
Yeah. Moving forward, I
But
know
I
that.
think we lost the. I'm sorry, we started. You and I can talk for hours and hours. We lost. You asked me about what did I do after Juilliard. I actually, well, the directors will come. I'm gonna take. I'm gonna disconnect it. Cut to that. Edit to that.
We
Edit
got
it.
caught up.
So
We got caught up.
just edit, blame it on the edit. So I'm gonna say that all these directors will come to just the school. Mr. Harkavy, who was the director of Juilliard at the time, he was the founder of the Netherlands Dance Theater. He was phenomenal. Mr. Harkavy was also a big inspiration for me. Is that um, um, there were several companies, and one was this small company in Denver called the David Taylor Dance Theater, and David came to Julia and he says, Gabriel, I think that you will be perfect for my company. And I'm bringing Glenn Tetley and Bruce Marks to choreograph things on you.
Wow. Wow.
So that really piqued my curiosity.
Yeah. Wow.
So we did, so I moved to Denver and I got an incredible contract. They gave me an apartment. They gave me like all this, and I got a couple of other options for jobs. But that was and with companies that were closer by. But that was one of the things that really drew me to David's company was that I could work with Glenn Tetley and with Bruce Marks, and with Bruce we did Lark Ascending, which was an incredible experience. And then in my contract was that I was going to choreograph 2 pieces for the company. So that, because I wanted to really start a career as a choreographer, I choreographed 2 pieces on the company, and that was my launch pad as a choreographer. Because I got a review from the Denver Post. It was really nice. They really liked the dance critic there, really liked my work, and then I was back and forth, kind of like long distance dating with my now husband. And in one of my trips to New Jersey, I meet Septime Weber.
Okay.
He was the director of American Repertory Ballet. Then he went into Washington, directed Washington Ballet, and then now he's in Hong Kong, I think, director of Hong Kong Ballet. So I love Septime, and we met Septime, and Septime says, Gabriel, you want to jump on board? And I work with Septime, and then I work with Graham Lustig, who was the director also in the American Repertory Ballet. And by then I started doing some, choreography around. I used to go to Washington a lot to work with a great group of musicians from the Kennedy Center. They hired me to work on 3 projects as a choreographer. They are the Shakespeare Theater in Washington. And then I started doing, choreographed an opera at the Manhattan School of Music. And I started to get all these choreographic gigs, and that's.
Wow. And see, all these years I know you, and I didn't know all that. That's, fabulous. Impressive.
Thank you.
So now,
I'm very humble. I'm very, very, I'm very grateful.
Relatable.
And
And relatable. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I think very relatable. I've always found you very easy to chat with and to be around.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. And so talk about how Axelrod came into
Oh my goodness. That is a crazy story. So it is a crazy story because we are circling back to what you and I were talking about before we started the podcast, when we were catching up. It's a very, very small world. Dance, and everybody listening, the dance world is a very small world.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is that, it's when you're my teacher, Maestro Saraspe, would say, he will say it in Spanish, but I'm going to translate it in English. You are condemned to be a director, he said to me one day. It's like if it's a sentence, Yeah. So he says someday you will. So I did a bit of an experimentation in 2010 with a group that I started called Transcendence Group.
Mm-hmm.
And with that group, I created a Holocaust program with dance that I created it with Pepe Margolis, who is part of the Holocaust committee at Raritan Valley Community College.
Wow.
And so my mother was a Holocaust survivor. And that's a story, I was listening to her stories every single day about the Holocaust. And in the world that we live right now, this is very relevant.
My gosh.
And all her family, about like 70, I think 72, we counted 72 relatives of hers died in concentration camps. cousins and uncles and, second cousins. And so her and her two brothers survived, and her mother and father, because her father took them out in the middle of the night. I mean, they escaped pretty much. It was really 1939. They left Berlin. And so I did this, created this program, and the committee at Raritan Valley and Jewish Federation of Somerset and Somerville counties used my program for middle school and high school for their Holocaust education for social studies. I don't know if you know, but Holocaust education in New Jersey is mandatory for Did you know that?
I did not know that, but I think it's fabulous. Yeah.
7th grade, 8th grade, up. So it's mandatory. Cool. So this was 2010, 11, 12. I mean, over 7,000 kids and their teachers saw my program.
Wow.
So I moved down to Ocean Grove with my husband, and I'm a swimmer. I like to swim. So I said, he says, why don't you go to the JCC? Because there's a great pool, and the JCC is a mile away, right next to Asbury Park in Deal. So I swam there. I was taking swimming lessons. I went to the pool there for like 6 months, never realizing that there was a theater at the JCC.
Wow.
So I'm talking to somebody one day, and I tell them a little bit of what I did, and she said, Gabriel, I think you should meet Jess Levy. He's the CEO of the theater. And I said, a theater? and she took me, and it's this beautiful theater with the most beautiful stage. It looks like the Joys.
Wow.
And and I meet Jess Levy, and Jess says to me, Gabriel, you have to meet Elise Feldman, who is new in our board. This was in 2017 that I met them in December 2017. And Elise would like to, Elise is passionate about dance. Elise was a dancer herself, and she wants to really start a dance program, a professional dance program and company here in Monmouth County. Because Monmouth County, on this side of the woods, there was not professional companies. New Jersey Ballet is a wonderful company. It's in the north. Princeton Ballet, but then on this side of the neck of the woods. So I met Elise, and Elise and I had, Jess was there. He's the CEO of the theater, and he is in mute because Elise and I were talking for an hour and a half, like you and I, because she loves dance so much, and she's a great philanthropist for dance. She believes in the power of dance. We became very good friends. And she says, Gabriel, I want you to really start a company. So I said, the very first thing we have to do is to do a couple of workshops. I'm going to bring some of my Juilliard friends and some live musicians. And we did a winter workshop. And it was very successful with students from the area. And then I met Andrew DePrisco, who's the artistic director of the Axelrod. And Andrew says, Gabriel, we would love for you to do something Shakespeare. And I said, well, I always wanted to do Midsummer Night's Dream. So they commissioned me Midsummer Night's Dream, and I drew from we did auditions for the company to get dancers in the company. I worked with some of my dancers that have worked with me for years. I keep people that works with me very close to me. I established very close relationships, and we did Midsummer Night's Dream. I wanted to include some theater because of the legacy of theater at the Axelrod. The Axelrod Performing Arts Center. It's basically a venue that is a new venue. I think it's maybe 14 or 15 years old, and rooted in musical theater and theater. So I collaborated with Sarah Joy Stone from the Shakespeare American Society, and I said, Sarah, I really would love to have Shakespeare, a young Shakespeare, telling the story of how he dreamt the dream, how the backstory behind the writing of Midsummer Night's Dream. And she wrote the most incredible script. And I said to the board of the Axelrod, I really would, and Elise was so supportive about this. We need to, actually it was her idea, we need to have live music because most of these dancers, young dancers in the area, are not used to dancing with an orchestra. So Andrew brought into the picture Jason Tram, who is a phenomenal conductor. I don't know if you know Jason, and he's phenomenal, and he put together an incredible orchestra, and we use a lot of incidental music from Mendelssohn and some Mendelssohn pieces that were really unknown, and it was a great success.
Wow.
So after that, they commissioned me 3 more ballets. So it's Alice in Wonderland, and they said to me, Gabriel, Andrew, said, Gabriel, Nutcracker is so overrated. So many Nutcrackers. And Elise says, because I love to work in a team. And Elise says, Gabriel, maybe you can do something and infuse it with something else. And I said, we live right next to Asbury Park. How about I infuse it with rock? So I created something called the Nutcracker Rock. And I worked in collaboration with the Gaslight Anthem, with 2 of the members of the Gaslight Anthem, Alex Levine and Alex Rosamilia, and they infused the Tchaikovsky score with this threads of rock and roll. And I changed the script, which one of my Juilliard colleagues from the drama department, also friends of many years, Ruben Jackson, he wrote the script, and we wrote about Drosselmeyer being a rocker. And so and then he breaks into the party. His brother lives in a penthouse in Madison Avenue in New York, and the party scene is all in black and white. It's a very, very, very uptight party scene. All of a sudden, he comes in and rock and roll. The threads of the rock and roll music are behind him.
Oh, wow. That's neat.
So the Nutcracker Rocks it's one of my favorites. And then Jungle Book was my 4th commission for that very first year of the company. And the Jungle Book, it's a piece that I've been.
Right? This is an anniversary year for the Jungle Book.
This is the 5th anniversary of Jungle Book. So it premiered in 2019. And that was the first season of the company. That was Summer Night's Dream was in 2018, and then 3 full-length ballets in 2019. And Jungle Book, I wanted to remind people that the story happens in India. So Kipling wrote the story, and it has been, washed and bleached in many versions of it, but the story happens in India, and there are a lot of incredible references of Indian mythology and iconography and many incredible things that he wrote. There are a lot of controversies about his book, but the way I interpret it is from the time period that was written, that it's written with a lot of devotion. Kipling lived in India for a long time, and when he moved back to the States in upstate New York, he named his house with the name of an Indian goddess, and he was I assume he was devoted. And so I was introduced to Sudha Shikhar Dubalapalli, the director and choreographer of Kalanjali School of Dance, which is, Sudha is, for me, an incredible guru. She is an incredible teacher of Bharatanatyam dance, which is the devotional aspect of classical Indian dance. And we met, and when I told her the story, we met through somebody on the board. And when I met her, she looked at me and she kind of like thought that I was crazy, that I wanted to fuse Bharatanatyam and ballet and contemporary dance. But she went for it.
Wow.
And I called in somebody from the Brooklyn Raga Massive, Neil Murgai, incredible talent, an incredible percussionist, and Jason put together a Juilliard string quartet, and so the score kind of fuses East and West, both in dance and music.
Wow.
And this year we revamped it, so we recorded a brand new score in Bangalore, India.
In India?
Yes,
Wow. Wow. That's
and
phenomenal.
it's really phenomenal. And then, we have the whole school, Sudha school, involved, about 20 of her dancers. There are the most beautiful classical Indian dancers, and her dancers, 13 of them are the narrators of the story.
Oh, how
So with the language of our, I hope that you can come. You'll be a guest of honor. Um, it opens February 2nd at the Axelrod Performing Arts Center, and it's one I'm so proud about this piece. This is one of the
you
ones that I'm.
sound beautiful. And
Yeah.
did you get to go to India? Did you get to go while it was being
I've been in India, but actually I worked. I actually worked on Jungle Book while I was creating the Polar
oh
Express.
wow. Oh my God.
So
Like
so
yeah.
the two
Oh
opposite.
my God.
So while I was listening to Christmas music
Yeah.
in August, when I was doing pre-production in July, I was also, working on Jungle Book. But that's the way it always happens. The Polar Express was incredible. We were after um, Chris Alsberg, the author of The Polar Express, for a long time, and his people. And finally, after 2.5 years, the attorney answered that we could have the rights to do a dance rendition of The Polar Express. So I wrote a proposal to Chris, and Chris says to me, what is it that, his people, his attorney, what is it that this is going to make a difference, because they don't want a Broadway show and they want
Of
a
course. No,
musical.
yeah,
He said, well, 85% of the cast is going to be kids. That's what's going to be different about this.
yeah. And how exciting. Like how exciting for the community to see all these children dancing.
Oh, we had a huge cast.
Yeah.
We had a huge cast of kids, and because the Axelrod Performing Arts Center also has an academy, so which I founded with Elise. Elise and I founded the Axelrod Performing Arts Academy.
Right. Right.
So I, uh, arts, dance education, dance being a bridge for young ones to explore, to get to know themselves. You've said it. You've said it
Yeah.
so well. To get to know yourself. Dance develops the brain. Uh, Dance does incredible things for a young mind.
Mhm.
So I'm very lucky.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. I want to go back to this collaboration that you have for Jungle Book.
Yeah.
So, because it's piqued my curiosity because I don't know if you listened to the podcast, but I had interviewed, was it last summer? It might have been last summer or in the fall. I had interviewed an Indian dancer who's here in New Jersey, and I'm going to say her name, but oh my gosh, I don't want to butcher it. Bali Bala Devi Chandrasekhar. And I
You
probably
said it very well.
did I because I practiced so much for her to say it correctly.
Bala Devi.
Bala Devi Chandrasekhar.
Mm-hmm.
And she was delightful to speak with.
Mm-hmm.
I felt if you haven't listened to her podcast, listen. But when I interviewed her,
I'm gonna go in and listen to it. Yeah, I
yeah,
haven't listened to that one.
she it it, it just I felt like I was in the presence of some like this wisdom and because I like yoga, and in yoga you're like you're namaste
Yeah.
and I just felt that with her, like you just were honoring this individual. And she was so beautiful, and she spoke about guru, and I want you to explain to the listeners what a guru is, because I think that's so important, because we can throw that word around and not use it properly, right?
Yeah.
but
Well,
but
Guru, it all. Thank you for bringing that up. That's really a wonderful. It's really a wonderful question, because I do have my teacher from India that started me on the yoga path in 2004, and I that really is something that really marks another turning point in my life, which was really going inwards. And I was talking before about how as dancers we focus on our bodies for so long and for so many hours, that to make sure that our positions are the positions that we need to be in, and we are people pleasers, and
Yeah.
we are very judgmental of ourselves, and we are, you know all of a sudden when you meet somebody that it could be from any background, eh, eh, when you meet somebody that can really turn your orientation inwards, that can really point you to yourself, that can really show you your inner world, help you discover your inner world, help you find stillness, help you with the moments in which the ego gets really big, right? Help you understand how the human brain works in a way when you start really going into your thoughts. Because when we are dancing, we cannot use our mind. When we're dancers, can't
Start
think
go.
while you're
Yeah,
dancing,
you can.
right?
Yeah. The minute you do.
So that's
Hmm.
the person or being that facilitates that is a guru.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you for explaining that, because I think, we can throw that, like I said, we can throw that around. And when she talked about it, and she talked about the wisdom, bringing that wisdom, honoring the wisdom of your guru, and she was just, I think you'll enjoy her
I
conversation.
will, I
Yeah.
will, I will totally listen to it. And Parvati, my teacher, she's very important for me, and
We know each
I-
other, maybe. I don't know.
maybe. And so working with Sudha and her students, it has been a great moment in my life to really, bring out to the outside a bit of what my spiritual beliefs and my spiritual path is. And I understand that, I understand what a belief system is, and I'm very for it. I'm myself, I'm Jewish, and that's a belief system, and I tune into it. But also there is something about your own spirituality that can be very powerful, that is stripped from any belief system that's yours. That's something that's yours, that you can actually make that for yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't come in a book, or it doesn't come in, you fabricate that. And Jungle Book, it's an expression of that. When I listen to this new music, Praveen Deral and Pramath Kiran are the two composers that are so talented. And when I'm in rehearsal, when I was working on the choreography for this, I had to stop and just sit in silence and listen to it, because it's so beautiful. It's pure beauty, and all the instruments involved, the sarangi, the sitar,
I was gonna say
the
the
you know
top.
the oh, I mean, it's just incredible. And the story is about a journey. It's about belonging. It's about, being raised by the jungle people. He doesn't call them animals, he called them jungle people, Kipling. And I am so excited for everybody to see it, and people that haven't seen it. Again, it's a great piece. It has the, cultural diversity, integration. For me, that's something that really resonates very strongly with me. That I infuse all my work with it.
Yeah.
The company, the Axelrod Contemporary Ballet, strives for diversity. Diversity not only in the color of your skin or your ethnicity. Diversity has to do with many things. My opinion, that diversity also comes with different way of thinking,
Mhm.
different way of living, and I work with my dancers in a very collaborative way. So it's a really phenomenal work. It really is, Joanne. I can't wait
It,
for you to see it.
it sounds wonderful, and when you say diversity, with diversity comes acceptance, right? Acceptance, growth,
Bravo.
love, peace, all those things we talk about and search for, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so it sounds really really exciting. And besides, I find like I have like a little tiny bit of knowledge of Indian classical dancing, tiny, like you know, but I'm so excited about it because I'm seeing more and more of it, and we are exposed to more of it now, and especially having spoken with, you know, on the podcast.
Bala Devi.
I don't want to. I'm always afraid I'm going to mess up her name. She's so
Bala is a beautiful name. Bala
yeah,
means in Sanskrit means child. Or
yes,
Bala is a child.
yeah. She told me, and they were like, she told me the rest of it. I mean, you probably know. She told me the rest of what it meant, and just
Mm.
and she matches that. Like that is who she is. Like that is
Wonderful.
that.
That's wonderful.
But so, Gabriel, before we finish up, because I could go on
Yes.
forever and ever. My goodness, we're gonna have to like get to
We'll do it soon over coffee, you and I,
yeah,
without the podcast. Yeah.
absolutely. We I mean, for real,
Yeah.
for real, for real,
For real,
for real, for real, real. So, is there anything else you want to leave the? We said so much, such a great conversation. So much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to leave the listeners with anything I left out? Anything that you want to, just bring the attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanna say to everybody that's listening that if you are looking for a career in dance, of course, if you're already working as a professional, I can speak to that as well. But I think I'm gonna speak to all of you who want to have a career in dance is that if you really stay with it, right, uh, that she will stay with you,
Yeah.
and that to be very selective on the projects that you involve yourself with, the people that you work for,
Mhm.
that you ask a lot of questions, that you keep yourself in a curious space, that always try to figure out how you can grow, but in your own body, not just to be somebody else, but just to grow in your own body. How can you grow? Because we all make mistakes, and yes, and you can be a mistake machine. That's not a problem to make mistakes. That if you make a mistake, that's really your point of reference to really redirect you,
Yeah.
and the dance world is a beautiful thing. I think that, circling back to the beginning of our conversation, being with dancers is the best thing.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, Gabriel. So great to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to have that coffee and tea. Oh my gosh.
And I'm gonna send you the info on Jungle Book, okay?
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I want you to be a guest of honor for sure.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. Thank you. And
Yes.
thank you, everybody, for listening to Dance Talk with Joanne Carey. Follow us, like us, and share, share, share. Thank you, everybody.
Powered by Riverside.